Welcome back to Business Week here on Arise News. I'm joined now by Oladele, personal finance educator and founder of the Money Wit Club, to review some of our top stories in more detail. Thanks for joining the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So the first story, sorry, I'm not having such a great day with the voice today. Maybe it's because of this Google case, because it's incredible. The DOJ has said Google should sell Chrome. Chrome is literally like a hallmark of the Google brand and the product spectrum. Tell us how this will play out.
So just as a background, right, why are they going for Chrome? Because every time you do anything on that search engine, Google is getting data.
Okay.
And they can use that data to sell, to advertise their products. So just imagine a woman who is searching for how to feed a child, then where to buy children's products. What you are giving is data points so that Google can effectively sell, and that's the advantage.
Yeah.
So when the DOJ is going for that particular asset, they're saying, this thing that makes you unique is what we need to break up. Now, why are they doing that? Because there's an antitrust law saying that there shouldn't be one singular monopoly. And yes, we all know that whatever it is, Google is the main engine right now. But how is it going to play out? We expect that based on this filing, that Google is going to come back. I think the date is December 20 to give their own proposal. Because regardless of what the case is, there will need to be a change. But what they would arrive at is not yet clear.
Okay. So, I mean, look, there's been a lot of antitrust legislation to different companies, tech-focused, but if this actually does succeed, it could set a major and massive precedence for the rest of the tech sector. So if Chrome is eventually sold, do you think that will really alter the landscape of competition?
Of course it will. It will, from two sides. From the first side being that everyone can plug into that data, because I think that's what they're trying to achieve.
Not just Google, other companies.
So it breaks up the actual monopoly. And then for everyone that has a monopoly, we don't want to call their names, but the tech big boys, right? Once they are able to establish this, then it sets a precedence for every other breakup. So beyond just Google, there's going to be a change in what we know as the tech big boys, or who we know, because it's going to decentralize that positioning for all of them.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was just thinking how Chrome has come to define so many of our lives. I mean, those of us who do use Google or Gmail or the whole Google suite of products, you actually realize that the monopoly is actually controlling your entire online existence. Now, Dangote refinery is exporting to West Africa. I see this as a really positive thing, because this is also brand Nigeria in a sense, but also it gives Dangote refinery avenues to earn FX, given all the various controversies we see. But what is really behind this? Because this is like almost like a forced export to other countries because of some challenges domestically. What's going on?
So, I mean, we've all seen the news, right? And there's a part where we see bits and pieces of it, but we might not really quantify or be able to establish exactly what the issue is. But obviously, there is some kind of pushback in Dangote actually supplying Nigeria all the fuel that it needs.
So what is the issue? Because I feel like we've all just been trying to read in between the lines so much. What could be so wrong about a Nigerian building a refinery and exporting and supplying the domestic market so that we have access to efficient, affordable fuel on demand?
Speculation. We know that there's some speculation that some people buy Nigerian fuel cheaper and sell to other markets.
Smuggling.
Smuggling. Right. But of course, those things are not mainstream information. But so that feeds into some the pushback against Dangote. But these are things that until there's some prosecution or some tangible thing, you almost can't hold that as the reason. But obviously, there's something behind this pushback, and it is major. And I think it's also important because a lot of people have been depending on Dangote, fuel price, blah, blah, blah. But understand that they're a business. And in the end, they would be forced to sell to whoever is willing to buy. But I think it is good for Nigeria. Even the exporting is good for Nigeria because right now, we don't necessarily have a direct currency pair, for example, with the Togolese country, their currency, this CFA, right? Or CDs will all convert to dollar, then go back. But as we begin to do these things, then there is a base case for us to actually have Nigeria as a direct trading pair with those countries.
You have that currency convertibility between African countries.
So if you think about the AFCFTA and all those things, this is actually the beginning of making a base case for those kind of moves.
Because at least the volume of goods and services traded increases. So you actually have a basis for measuring the value of currencies vis-a-vis. But I mean, what does this mean like for the Pan-African payment system, which is actually meant to be the interlocutor between African currencies? That will still play a role?
It will definitely. I mean, there's one Nigerian bank, I don't know if I should mention, that has been opening branches around Africa.
Please don't mention. No free
around
advertising.
Africa, exactly, right? That is positioning such that if we decide we want to export to Kenya, they have a branch there that can do that direct naira to Kenyan shillings. Or if we want to go to Namibia, we have that direct naira to whatever their currency is, right? But we are building, so we are in the right direction.
Okay, great. Now, this debt servicing, capital expenditure story, Nigeria's debt burden, which has kind of been the elephant in the room, if you like, it's been there. It seems like our debt service burden is growing. And now this talk that between 2025 to 2027, we'll have this kind of huge amount. Debt servicing costs will exceed capital expenditure. How can you even kind of imagine that scenario? What's going on really?
So one of the things you say when it comes to debt is that what are you borrowing for?
Right.
If you're borrowing for recurrent expenditure, the impact will be different from if you're borrowing from capital expenditure. If you're borrowing to invest so that the money will come back to you, it's different from when you use it to pay salary. Now, Nigeria has been borrowing to pay salary and to do things that are not going to bring money back to us. This is the impact. So, you know, when they say debt is like borrowing into your children's future, like eating into your children's future, that's actually what is playing out right now. Now, if you look at the budget, the current budget, you will actually realize that the budget has grown in naira terms.
Yes.
But in dollar terms, it is actually a budget cut.
Right.
Now, what I see there as the light at the end of the tunnel is that if we are actually able to export crude oil, things like that, or fuel actually, and start doing those things in good number, and we're able to earn FX, then it can actually fix the problem faster.
Right.
So there is still hope, but it is one of those things that if you just keep spending, then we're just going deeper into the problem.
Because looking at the debt burden, I mean, last year I think we were like at 80-something trillion. Now we've gone past over 100 trillion. You take ways and means, you take all these other sources, and you're wondering, you know, which way forward and when will this end? But like you said, there's good debt and there's bad debt.
Yes.
I'd like to see how this actually delivers in terms of the infrastructure development and the economic development that we require. Because if it's going into sectors that are critical to economic growth, which then generates the tax base that is then generating revenues, then we don't really have a problem per se. Okay, we want to look at Chinese ETF outflows as these traders are fleeing on the Trump tariff risk. China, Trump is coming in. Tell us what's all this about?
So first thing for every listener, ETF, exchange traded funds. So China ETFs are basically ETFs that buy Chinese stocks. Now what is happening, and I think it started from the President Biden regime or tenor, where they started increasing the tariffs on Chinese produced goods. What they were trying to do was to preserve the economic security of America.
Right.
Now, Trump is coming to say that I'm going to make it 100%, meaning that if something in China was going to be brought into America at $30, I'm going to make it $60 so that the local producer would sell at $50 and
undercuts
out
the Chinese
guys. Now, if that is the case, and it actually does happen, and there are companies that are actually dependent on their exports to America to survive, it means that there is a massive threat to those companies. And so as an investor, you don't wait for the tariffs to come. You exit
before the tariffs come.
And see how the company is able to move to other markets or whatever, and see how they're able to rebalance, or if the Chinese government can renegotiate that tariff downwards. But
also, I think it also just highlights ETFs, in a sense, are still speculative capital flows, right, into China. So the question is, how much damage is this really doing to the Chinese economy? Because what China also really needs is that foreign direct investment, not just inflows into capital markets or listed ETFs on Chinese stock exchange. Is this a really major issue for the Chinese economy, or is it just a slight dip in the road?
So the sale of the ETFs, I don't think it's major to the Chinese economy. But what is major to the Chinese economy is the tariffs.
Right.
Because that would impact jobs.
And manufacturing and all of that. Yes, of
Those
course.
are the things that have the direct impact. But these are just investors trying to make sure that
So this is just the symptom of an underlying problem structural to the Chinese economy. You know, the economic war between China and the US, I think, is just going to intensify under the Trump presidency. And what I've always felt is that it's not just about China. China feeds other parts of the world. So it almost seems like this is a war against Africa, for instance, giving the strong trade links between Africa and China. I jest a bit, but I mean, we often talk about how this is. Now, in terms of just generally looking at the global market as a whole and what the advent of Trump might mean for the global market, what is the one big lesson you would say here for Nigeria? Looking at some of these economic tensions between countries and the need to really just develop your own domestic capacity. I
think that's actually its positioning.
Yeah.
Right. Even between the China-US trade war, Africa is going to be a major contender because Africa is the next frontier, right? Such that no matter what President Trump wants to do, he's going to have a good Africa policy because China will take over and it will look like China won. Right? But in Africa, how well are you positioned? How well are you positioned for you to be that bride that everybody keeps running to? So the thing is actually to position yourself well in terms of your brand and actual implementation, ease of doing business. How open are you to foreign investors? How easy is it for them to exit? Things like that.
Okay.
So your positioning as a country matters.
Fantastic. Oladele. I think I got that pronunciation right. Thank you so much for joining us with such great insights on global developments around the world. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.